Yeah. So part of me doing these kits again is I'm learning new techniques, and I can tell you, I build things much better than my 8-year-old self did. Yeah.
Yeah, join the crowd.
Yeah.
At the time, I only had a little bottle of Chester's flat black.
Oh.
And I didn't know why it didn't look right to me. Why doesn't the guitar look right to me? And
Yeah.
Yeah.
I get some
Well,
of
one thing about the tar pit was I told Andy, I said, this is the one kit we could put a car into.
Yeah. The car pit?
Well, we would have had the car in the parking lot right next to it.
there you
So we
go.
have a sidewalk and a curb and a place for a 25th scale car.
Ah. Cool.
So, yeah.
All right. So next one up is the cave bear. Yeah, the one you've got, and I've got in my background over here.
Yeah.
And like the saber-toothed tiger, there are all kinds of, I mean, you could do so many different colorations. You could even do a polar bear of that, a polar bear version. There's so many options. And that's one I hadn't gotten to build as a kid. And so it was a lot of fun. And it comes with a wall that can be used with the cave, I think.
That's correct.
Yeah. I haven't tried that yet, but yeah, any thoughts on that one, Jim?
Well, it was, again, probably the least prehistoric of all of the ones that we did.
Yeah.
But we also felt it was necessary to do it as part of it.
No, yeah. I think you needed some more mammals in addition to the dinosaurs. I think that was a good choice.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a fun when Cochran did the drawings on it. And then when we gave it to Bill Lemon or whoever did the pattern, I told him, I says, make that thing so that if you look at it, it scares the hell out of you. And that's what he did when he carved it.
And I was still a figure kit guy. I was just into figure kits. And the reason it was the first of the second wave that I bought because it was a figure.
Yeah.
And I especially loved the nice little detail of the little skull pit on the base with the two skulls. And it's funny because only on the instruction sheet, and I went through this with the folks at Atlantis when we were re-releasing this, is that only one skull is noted on the instruction sheet, but the frame actually holds two. So you get two skulls.
Yeah. So moving on to the next one here, the Allosaurus. Now, Jim, you were talking a little earlier about the drool on the Allosaurus. I cannot agree with you more. I just sent you a picture of the one that I did, and I cut that off. I just
most of the guys did,
Yeah, it's just like, come on,
and
really?
But it's the least authentic of all of them.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Because the guy that did the pattern didn't know diddly about what he was doing, and he'd seen a dinosaur in a movie, and that's what he made it look like. And so I was very frustrated with it because it should have been done by Bill Lemon. It would have been an entirely different kit.
Yeah.
It really would. So that one frustrated me to no end.
I get it. I get it.
None
of us. Oh, go ahead.
Knew,
go ahead, Dennis.
I'm sorry. None of us knew what that drool was, especially as kids. We saw on the cross cell it looked like a little white cloth hanging off his jump.
Yeah.
Is it a piece of cloth? Is it caveman clothing or something like that?
Right.
The nice thing about it, and this is the thing that with Tori building all the kits, as I've mentioned for both Monster Scenes and now for this series, and for this book, is that I do have his hand. He's a fabulous, inventive modeler, but I said no customizations.
Yeah.
This has to be authentic, and so I've got one arm tied behind his back, and so it's a challenge to him. I said you got to do something really clever. Show these folks something really clever with that drool.
I have the thing for you. This is it is a little bit of a modification, but have him take a mold of it and
Yeah.
cast it. If you're going to have drool, cast it in clear resin plastic and then paint it up. Because that's what I'm looking at when I do it as per box art. That'll probably be the only time that I allow for that drool to happen. But that's how I'm going to do it. Is I'm going to cast it in clear resin, and then paint the tongue and everything else. Because yeah, that's just it offends my soul.
I totally love that, and I won't let him do it. And he's like, well, why do you have to break open your Aurora Allosaurus? Why don't we just use one of the monogram Allosaurus? I said, no.
Yep, that's right.
Got to be Aurora's.
Yeah.
I'm just being a purist about it, maybe in a fanatical sort of way, but I just want to see it, and it's going to be a good challenge. And maybe we put that challenge out there after the book comes out to the rest of the community. All right, folks, give us your best drool. But no cheating.
Yeah.
Maybe you need to have a community contest, a model, an Aurora Prehistoric Scenes contest.
Drool contest.
Like I said, I love the energy and the enthusiasm of this community. They're the best.
Oh yeah.
Take us forward, John. Sorry.
Okay. No worries at all. I'm having fun. All right. So next one, the giant bird. Tell us about it, Jim.
Well, we did the same thing with the giant bird as we tried to do with the rest of the kits, and that was I mean, I think if anybody else, any other company had done it, he would have just been standing there on 2 feet and with his beak closed.
Yeah.
And, we wanted to give it some action, and so we made it so that it would stand on one leg and have the claws visible for it. Because these animals must have had giant claws to protect themselves from all of their relatives,
Yeah.
It was and so it was fun to do it that way.
Yeah.
We had to put that action into it, and it made it a much more dimensional kit than just sticking it on his 2 legs.
Yeah.
So,
I had fun building that kit.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
One thing, and Tori, and I haven't shown it to people yet, but and I might leak it onto the page, but Tori's done an amazing paint on it. But the one thing I will go ahead and leak here just a little bit, in working with Andy, he wanted that kit because he wanted to put a rider on it. That was always his intention. He says the reason I insisted we do that kit is I want to put a rider on it eventually. and there's a whole community and a bunch of enthusiasts out there for Tycho's Dino Riders.
Yeah.
And I've got the one that he references to me. And I'll put that in the book. But yeah, he wanted to see something riding that. One other thing I'll say about the giant bird. One, I love the little bird nest. I think it's just a fabulous little extra touch. And I really love the metallic kind of almost cobalt blue plastic that they shot this thing in. It's just a beautiful kit. It really is. You might look past it at the notion of a giant bird. And I think there was a reason, I forget the name of the show from a few years back about prehistoric life, but they showed how what these giant birds can do. They are just vicious.
Yeah.
Well, there's a reason why they call them terror birds, because they are terrifying. And there's a bird very similar to that today called a cassowary. And the cassowary has killed people. You don't mess around with the cassowary.
Yeah.
So yeah, they're scary.
Well, we have, I just live 30 miles west of Zion National Park.
Mhm.
And Zion National Park has, the giant birds there. And they, they have a 16-foot wingspan. And their
Just
beak,
walk away.
yeah, and their beak is like, it looks like somebody drew it from a horror movie.
Yeah.
And these things, they're 16-foot wingspan and they're black. And they fly out from Zion National Park to the west here. And my backyard is 1,000-foot cliff that goes straight up.
Wow.
And it's the western edge of the Colorado Plateau.
Mm.
And the winds come and blow against that cliff and make this beautiful air that rises.
Yeah.
And these birds come out and fly right over my house on the waves of wind.
On those thermals. Yeah.
Yeah, on the thermals, yeah. And one day my wife called me, she says, you gotta come out and see this. There's 6 of them. And there were 6 of these giant birds all together, flying right literally above my house, easily visible. And they're quite amazing to see. But boy, their claws and their beaks, I wouldn't want to get involved.
Yeah. Better not have any wiener dogs.
No.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on to the next one. The jungle swamp. Yeah, this is kind of like the cave in that it's kind of a play set.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So what tell us about that one, Jim?
Well, we thought about putting clear water in it
Yeah.
at one point, but it was cost prohibitive.
Yeah.
It would have meant another whole tool, which would mean that we'd have to not make another kit like
Mhm.
Neanderthal man or something like that.
Mhm.
And so, but it was intended to provide a lot of different creatures that you could put with any of the other animals on their bases.
Yeah.
And I think it worked out quite well. It was the big bluebird in the middle was beautiful,
Mhm.
and the plants,
Mhm.
and that's something that we had fun figuring out were prehistoric plants.
Yeah.
So a lot of that is Dave Cockram's imagination, because the only reference to prehistoric plants we had were when they were folded into rocks and swamps, and then all you had was a big flat piece
Yeah.
of a leaf. So
Yeah.
you really couldn't tell what the plants were. So again, but again, we used the best research we had to come up with the plants that we did put in. And the intention was to provide a wide variety of creatures that could be placed on next to the cave or with the spiked dinosaur or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it worked out quite well.
Yeah. I'm gonna pick a couple of nits here, and I apologize in advance. One is that the big trees were real kind of prone to falling down very easily, so they didn't have a good base support structure, and that the base itself really wasn't large enough for all the creatures that if you wanted to put them on, and it's off to the side, so there could have been my thought is if they'd gone another 3 or 4 inches off to the side, they could have gotten all of those. So I will own that I'm picking some nits on. My apologies.
That's all right. That's
Yeah.
all right.
So,
No, we
Um,
put a lot in there and we had the tool space to do it, so.
yeah. It definitely has a lot of cool stuff going on with it. I'll definitely give it that. Okay, let's move on to our next one here. The three-horned dinosaur.
Hmm.
And I think we're going in production order. This one I also had as a kid. Fun one to build. And I told Jim about this just real quick on a personal note. My girlfriend, so I'd asked her when I was starting to build all these kits again, and my girlfriend, yeah, there you go. Um, my girlfriend, and I'll send you some pictures here in a bit. I asked her which one she, would like for me to build first because I had all of them. And she said, well, her favorite was the Triceratops. So, okay, great. And I asked her what color, and she said purple, dot, 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 with glitter. And I'm like, oh, baby, I love you dearly. But glitter is the craft herpes. And it's like, can we not do glitter? She's like, well, it's something sparkly, flashy. It's like I can get purple metallic paint, and that's what I did. And at one point,
I saw the pictures.
yeah, and so one of them had so we figured, oh, we'll base it off of RuPaul, Charles RuPaul, the drag queen. And so it started to be called Charles. Then she said, well, I think it should have a fuchsia feather boa.
Oh my.
So I found one. And then we started calling it Charlene. Now, after building this, I figured there needed to be balance in the force. So I decided to make another purple Triceratops, and this one was black and purple. And it was definitely cool, and I felt it was based off of Samuel L. Jackson, because in Star Wars he has a purple lightsaber.
Mm-hmm.
So I made this thing, and it ended up being called Samuel L. Dino.
Yeah.
Now, one of the things that I do with a lot of these is I'll get a toy version and paint it to test my paint job. So I had this little tiny Triceratops to go along with the big one. And that one ended up being called Sammy Dino Jr.
Mm.
So there's my dad joke for you. But anyway,
Yeah.
love building the kit. It was a lot of fun. And I'm going to carry over into the Spike dinosaur in a second because I have a suspicion, and I bet you'll confirm it for me. But anyway, what were your thoughts on that one, Jim?
Well, we had a lot of fun with it.
Yeah,
I mean, I've seen a lot of paintings that have been done of this creature, and none of them look fierce.
yeah,
This thing looks like, I'm sorry, I don't want to meet you in the corner of pennies.
yeah,
And so we really wanted to emphasize that, and I think we pulled it off.
yeah,
And not just in the face, but his whole stance.
yeah,
If you see cats, just today's cats, right?
mhm,
And they get upset. They stick their rear end up in the air,
yeah.
so they look bigger.
Well,
And
he looks like he's about to charge.
yeah, he's in the middle of charging, actually.
Yeah.
We gave him a Visa card.
Oh, okay.
But it was fun doing it, and doing the pattern was a real job.
Yeah.
Because of all the shapes and without having to put slides in the mold to create parts. We could not use any slide molds in any of this stuff, so
Yeah.
we had to have that in mind. But I think that we really succeeded in making this guy the terror of the road.
Yeah. Well, you succeeded. And that's going to lead us right into the next one, which is very similar to the spike dinosaur. And I could be wrong, but it looks like there was a lot of the molding from the Triceratops that carried over into the spike dinosaur, especially the bodies, which makes economic sense. Is that what happened with that one, Jim?
No, they're all separate tools.
Okay,
Yep, all separate tools.
really? Because they're very similar.
But it's the missing factor here is of course the Stegosaurus, and we did a pattern for the Stegosaurus, and that was when Aurora shut down. And so I think that Andy ended up with the pattern, if I remember correctly. But it was part of his $3.5 million estate that was sold off. But no, it was a separate tool.
Okay. All right. Because they were very similar, because I built one recently here shortly after building Triceratops.
Yeah.
Fun build again. Fun build. Let me.
Well, all of these animals are just going to use the word stunning. I mean, they were really something to see, and to go out into the museums. And actually, here in Utah, I was able to actually go to one of the biggest dinosaur. Well, it's a dinosaur park, national park, national monument, I guess, and it's a state park, and they have this giant wall of rocks, and there are literally hundreds of or thousands of bones.
Yeah.
And there they are up there chipping away,
Wow.
to try and pull everything out. And it's amazing to go there and see how big these things were. That was that'd blow you away.
Yeah. I recently, my girlfriend and I went to the Houston Museum of Natural History, and they've got a Stegosaurus fossil skeleton there. And you if you were to put the Cro-Magnon man next to that Triceratops, they're about in the right scale, because that's a big beast. It is not tiny.
Yeah, no, it's a big animal, and I think that we tried to make a mix of animals and humans, or creatures that could relate to the size of a human, to make the humans look small.
Yeah. Well, that certainly got conveyed. Okay, let's do the next one here. The giant woolly mammoth, which of all the things that could, we might get a la Jurassic Park, they may actually, there's a program to actually bring back the woolly mammoth.
Yes, there is.
Yeah, it's pretty impressive. So the woolly mammoth, I'm sorry, what?
It's my favorite. It's my favorite of all the kids.
Yeah, I really enjoyed, because I built this one recently, and I covered it in snow. And let's see here. I'll send this to you here. Hang on, guys. Appreciate your patience. You'll see in a second here. Here we go. I'll send that to you. Yeah, that was one of my favorites as a kid. And that's a big kid. I mean, the T-Rex is definitely bigger, but that's not a tiny kid.
No, that was not a small one, and there was a question as to whether we would do it because of the price of the tool.
Yeah.
We did have a budget to work with on these things, and we just didn't go willy-nilly off into, well, let's do this and let's do that and let's do this and let's do that.
Mhm.
We had a budget we had to work with. And
Yeah, it's a nice build.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, it's amazing. And that was okay. So back to that same Payless toy store I told you about, or variety store. Yeah, this is when I saw the second display.
Yeah.
That features the woolly mammoth. And again, you know, Jim, you guys raised the bar even higher still because that kit was just huge. And I know it's huge, and at the same time, when Tori built this for me for the book, and you know, I already had it. He's already completed. He did an amazing job. Andy was blown away for his build. And as I unpacked this thing when I received it, it's like, yeah, this thing is still huge.
Yeah.
It's just huge. And the nice thing about it too, and I don't want to give away too many things, but we do know there were some alternate legs and trunk for this
yeah,
Mhm.
kit that didn't find their way into production.
that's correct. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was, well, the other factor was that management, when they saw the bill for the patterns for this kit, this kit probably was very close to the Tyrannosaurus Rex
Mhm.
in terms of the amount of money spent on the tool, on the pattern.
Mhm.
Pattern itself. So, but what a beautiful creature. And to think that, you know, I mean, even in my neighborhood here where I live now, there were woolly mammoths running around and guys with spears trying to kill them, you know.
Yeah.
What was that, last weekend?
That weekend, yes, yeah. Saturday afternoon, actually, about two o'clock.
That's usually when it happens.
Yeah.
I can't wait for them to clone one. That would just be so amazing to see. We've got a state park up here, well, north of us in Waco, that's the Columbian mammoth, which is even bigger.
Mm.
And I mean, you're talking like 16 feet tall. It is huge. And, you know, you can go look at the site where they're still excavating. But yeah, that was one of my favorite kits out of the series as a kid. I just love that kit. So, moving on to the next one. I did not have this one as a kid.
Mhm.
The armored dinosaur, the Ankylosaurus.
Like this noise, yeah.
Yeah, fun to build. What's your thoughts on it, Jim?
Well, it was a lot simpler pattern to do.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a beautiful, beautiful animal. I mean,
Yeah.
And we just, you know, it just keeps reminding me, we had so much fun with these.
Yeah.
To be able to have Cockham do the drawings according to our specifications, and then to give those drawings to the pattern makers and have these guys, you know, sit in their shop with their Dremel and millions of pieces of acetate flying everywhere. I mean, seriously, you could have, when they did these, there was enough chips left over that if you had melted them all down, you probably could have made a cube 6 feet, you know,
Oh my God.
Wow.
Right?
in size, because they had to start with great big pieces of acetate,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
and that stuff was not cheap.
You know, and I will say, John, too, on the aftermarket, on the eBay market, we'll call it, that armored dinosaur, that Ankylosaurus, fetched some really high prices.
I know.
He was a little more difficult to come by. I've had two of them sealed, and man, you're able to find some dead mint, beautiful sealed kits. I sent one of them back down in the stream, but the other one, you know, kept and broke open for the book.
Yeah. No, you're
Wow.
$300 to $500 easily.
Easily.
Is that
Easy.
what they're going for?
Oh, yeah,
No kidding.
Yeah.
yeah. I spent way much more money than I should have in getting this collection.
Only money.
I could probably have bought a car, not a new car, but a decent used car, for what I'm not proud. Anyway,
Well, we had the Aurora racing scenes. And I left the company, they were all the tooling was finished. There were test shots done on all parts, when I left. And, I never got a set of them.
Mhm.
And so, here well, I guess about a year ago, I found a set on, eBay. And, I kissed off $4,500.
Ooh.
yeah, I had a mostly complete set that was like not everything, but almost everything for like in various states of condition, $2,500. So
Yeah.
it's very easy to do. Okay, we've got a couple more left. Let's talk about the sailback reptile. I actually saw this fossil skeleton at the Houston Museum of Natural History, and it's it's about 6, 8 feet long. Yeah.
Pretty
So
close to the model.
I'm sorry, what?
And I'll bet the skeleton is pretty close to the model.
It is actually. It's very close.
Yeah, we did a lot of work to make sure that they were correct.
Yeah.
And the interesting part about it is management, they just stayed out of it, you know?
Mhm.
They,
Yeah.
I don't know how that happened. It was really cool that it happened. But they didn't bother me or Andy. We just, we were in there back there working on the stuff. And we had other projects and things that we were working on at the same time that we had to get out too. And so, sometimes this work was squeezed into, space,
Yeah. I suspect it's kind of this thing that Frank Zappa years ago talked about why music used to be good and why it's not now.
Mm.
And that is that when, a lot of rock and roll music was coming out, the studio execs didn't know if it was a good or not. They just threw it out. And it's like, well, if it makes money, great. And it worked real well that way for a while because they didn't know, but it was working and it was making money. So what? Then they started getting um pop music experts in, and then everything went downhill from there. And I suspect, and I could be wrong, that they didn't know what you were doing, but you were producing, the kids were making money, so they're like, go for it. I suspect.
Well, it worked out well, and there were others beyond this. Like I said, the pattern for the Stegosaurus was absolutely stunning, and it was huge.
Mhm.
I would love to have seen that.
Yeah, that one was a great one.
Yeah. Hey, before I get to the T-Rex here, the plastic that was used on the sailback dinosaur, which because it was brittle.
It was a translucent blue.
No, the copper.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that copper plastic looks great, but really, really brittle. Do you recall that?
When you start throwing metallic stuff into plastic, it makes it brittle.
I believe that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But,
So
this is not something that we would consider that somebody would sit down there and try to break it since they just paid $1.298 for it, you know.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I had on the one that I built, and I'll hang on a second here, get you another picture. 1 second. Yeah, I had to do a lot of repairs on the base mostly on
Uh-huh.
mine. Because the plastic was really brittle, and I certainly wasn't trying to break it, but
Very nice.
yeah, thank you.
Mhm.
So
Compost happens.
I'm sorry, say again.
Compost happens.
It does.
It
Yeah.
always smells, and sometimes it flies, and sometimes it breaks.
Yeah. That's really my only complaint about that kit. Otherwise, I love building that kit. I loved the reeds and the dragonfly. Those were a lot of fun. And there's a little teeny tiny spider in there and a little just all the little details was just so much fun.
And I'll tell you what, in the build that we've got, there's an Easter egg in there, and
Oh,
that's all I'm gonna say.
okay. I'll wait for the book. Gotta get that book done.
Well, I can. I'm having too much fun here playing with
All right, the last kit in the series, the Tyrannosaurus Rex. Yeah, that's a big beast of a kit. That's one of them that I recently built. That's one of the ones earlier on that I did.
Mhm.
And as you can imagine, great for kids. Um, got to be careful with the arms, but great for kids. But if you're like trying to fill all the seams, it's a big kit. Loved it. And I've got a little story about my kit in that I was trying to figure out the color scheme. Hang on a second here. There we go. And so, are you guys familiar with the University of Texas Longhorns?
Mhm.
So their color scheme is burnt orange and white. So my girlfriend said that this kit reminded her of a butterball turkey.
Mhm.
So the
Love it.
the mascot the mascot for UT is called Bevo. And so I called this one BB for Butterball, the
Yeah.
UT T-Rex.
You know,
So,
you just gave me a great idea.
oh, what's
Yeah.
that?
I need to cook one. I mean, I need to paint up one of these things up that looks like it's a cooked one.
That would be
Chop the head
fun.
off, chop the head off and whack the tail down and
Press it up. Yeah.
dress it up.
Yeah.
It's interesting looking at this because as a kid, the first time I got a look at what this kit looked like was in an issue of Famous Monsters of Filmland magazine. And it was an issue where they were doing an article on their first Famous Monsters convention in New York.
Yeah.
And there was a featured photo of one of the dealers standing there with a built T-Rex standing right there with just those massive teeth.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, wow, that looks really interesting.
One of the things I did with mine, and I did it with the Styracosaurus and the Triceratops, was I built up a mouth, roof of the mouth, because they don't have them otherwise. So I did that for this one too. But again, another fun kit to build. As I was going through these, is like reliving my childhood, or satisfying a childhood dream because I really wanted all of these kits, and now I finally have them all.
Yeah. Beautiful.
So Jim, your thoughts about the T-Rex?
Well, it was something that we wanted to do, number one, to start with,
Yeah,
but we knew we had to work up to it.
yeah,
Because we had management to deal with it. And so we started small and we kept getting bigger and bigger and bigger.
mm-hmm.
And the woolly mammoth was a big step along the way
Yeah,
towards the T-Rex.
yeah,
And so when we walked into Diker's office with all of these built-ups and put them on the table there, and actually in the office next to his. And then we had the pattern for the
Mhm.
Tyrannosaurus. He came in, looked at that, and he just about flipped out.
Okay.
I mean, he was like, "We got to make this.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
We're stupid if we don't." And what is the tooling going to cost? And I told him, and he says, "Do it."
Yep.
And so we did.
yeah,
And you know, we had the pattern made
mm-hmm.
before we made the commitment to tool it.
Yeah,
Because I wanted to be able to walk into his office with it and set it on a table and say, "This is what we're looking at."
yeah,
And you know, to compare it to our biggest kit, which was Enterprise.
mm-hmm.
It would look good on the deck of the Enterprise.
Right.
There you
But
go.
it was I walked in there, we set it all up, and he came in, and I thought, well, let's see what's going to happen here. And I didn't think he'd approve it.
Mm-hmm.
I really didn't.
Wow.
And he just said yes, turned around and walked out.
Mm-hmm.
That
Wow.
was,
You know what, and Jim, that's interesting because I know that not a lot of folks know a whole lot about Diker. They wonder if he was the right one to come in and take up Aurora after Shikes and Cuomo and Giamarino and all that. And yet
yeah,
he did ultimately preside over, and to your point, he just approved probably one of the most enduring kits from that series, and like
Yeah.
that is still
Yep.
happening today. And the acquisition of the original molds from Monogram and then over into from Monogram in Europe. There's a reason why they're hanging on to them.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, so I would say kudos to that man for what you said, saying, yeah, do that. And I don't think he would have even figured out these kits are going to still be going 50 years later.
Well, I certainly didn't. I mean, we made them so they could be. And it's interesting that in the years since then till now, there have been several toy companies, small toy companies, that have put out little plastic dinosaurs. And then there's the big outfit, whose name I can't remember, from Germany, starts with an S.
Oh, not Strombecker.
No, not Strombecker.
Yeah, I'm saying that.
Yeah, I can't remember their name. Anyway, they've got incredible line of dinosaurs now,
Mm-hmm.
and in smaller size, obviously.
Yeah.
But nobody's ever stopped making dinosaurs. So
Nobody's ever stopped making these dinosaurs either.
and yeah. Thank you very much. Thank you. That
No, thank you.
Yeah.
really meant a lot.
And I'm going to say thank you too, because that, my late mother used to say, find a little joy in every day and never let anybody steal your joy. And these models, when I was a kid, brought me a lot of joy. So thank you for that.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
It's been an honor, and I wish that Andy were sitting here next to me so that we could share this honor, because without Andy, it wouldn't have happened, and without me, I don't think it would have happened.
No.
And so it was a team effort, and we were both over the years that we talked a lot over the years. And I even flew back to New York to visit with him at one point in time. And just to see the tooling is, essentially still around, except for the stupidity of Monogram.
Yeah.
But
No,
it's been an honor doing it, and it's been an honor having you work on the book, and you, John, having shipped me all of these models. And I'm looking at them here, and I'm thinking on a 4x8 table, what kind of a scene could I make? So.
Well, it was absolutely my pleasure. I just was tickled to do it. Let me carry on. I don't have too much more to go over, but you mentioned the Stegosaurus. Were there any other models that you wanted to do that you didn't get a chance to?
There were, and I'm getting old and can't remember some of that stuff, but Stegosaurus was completed and would have been the next big one.
Yeah.
And at that time, we were doing them then one at a time, obviously. And so there would have been others had the company continued. And I made a telephone call to Charles Diker earlier this year.
Yeah.
And I got really ballsy. And I told him, hi, this is Jim Keeler. And I said I was the product manager of Hobby Kits at Aurora when you were there.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to call and tell you thank you for allowing me the opportunity to work there at the time and do what I did. But I don't know how to put this. I kicked this around in my head for a few minutes in silence, actually.
Yeah.
Trying to figure out how to say it. But finally I said, if the amount of money you had spent at Aurora on those stupid games, if we had spent that same amount of money on hobby kits with Andy and I working on them, and others that I would have hired and did hire later on, we could have beat Revell.
Yeah.
In quality and in the number of kits we put out. And I think that we would have done things that would have made Revell stand with their hair on end, wondering what was cooking them in the face, because these things on the shelf took up tremendous amounts of shelf space away from both Revell and Monogram.
Yeah.
And Pyro and so forth and so on.
Yeah.
And it amazes me to this day that the tooling is essentially still here. And I was I've been working with the guys in New York now for 3 years. And doing kits under Keeler's Customs.
Yeah.
And so I was really excited when they decided to reissue the two that they did. And in fact, I wanted to get involved in it, but they didn't want me involved in it. So I didn't do it. But I would have done a little different things with packaging than what they did and with the graphics.
Yeah.
But it's been an honor to have worked with Andy, got to know him, and work with him, and and with the people at Aurora that we did work with that made things happen. But this particular project is something that Andy and I made happen. And nobody else had their fingers in it. So thank you. Thank you very much.
Thanks for your team effort. I do have a couple of other things I'm going to touch on and then hopefully wind this up because we've been going for a while. Real quick, there was not a base with the T-Rex. Where would that have been placed in the map if there had been a base? Where would that fit in the puzzle?
It would have wrapped clear around it. No, the base would have been 3 feet long. I mean,
Yeah.
It would need a separate box.
it would have had to been a separate kit because it would have doubled the price. But it would have involved a T-Rex eating another creature.
Yeah, I figured it would probably have to be behind the cave because that's really the only place that makes sense because you'd see it over the cave. If you put it in front of the cave, you're not going to see anything. So that's where I would put it.
Yeah, it would have wrapped around the back of the rest of them, and it would have made a heck of a display.
Yeah, at some point I'm going to make a base. Other thing I wanted to ask you on, or just mention because we're talking about kits that didn't get made. If there was ever a Brontosaurus, my understanding is if there was ever a Brontosaurus or a Patasaurus, that would be like 5 or 6 feet long. That would be a huge kit.
Yeah, never considered, and we probably would have never done it.
Yeah,
because the price point, we didn't want a $90 kit.
Yeah, it probably would have been even in 70s money. All right, so let's and we'll probably finish out on this. Let's say that you were starting prehistoric scenes again today. How would you go about it? What things would you want to see? What kits would you want? What would be your approach?
It would be almost identical to what we did.
Yeah.
The only, I think if anything, I would have done the woolly mammoth and the Stegosaurus together and release them together so they could, because then you'd have 2 of these huge boxes on the shelf next to each other.
Yeah.
It was, the pattern on it was just stunning, and I feel really bad that it didn't happen, but that everything pretty much would have, I would do it all pretty much in the same order. I think I might have done the packaging differently than what we did. The packaging that we did was dictated by Charles Diker with the 6-inch box and so forth, 4x4x6 box and that kind of thing. I think we would have been better off if we had had a flat box, a flasher box. We could have then had bigger graphics on it,
right? And
it would have been a better deal. And I feel the same way about the spiked dinosaur and you know, the Triceratops, the packaging. They were going through this routine of Charles Diker came in and one of the first things he did was to increase the size of the packaging for the kits, for all the kits.
Yeah.
And so we had, you know, a box that was 22 inches long by 8 inches wide. And then there was an airplane in it that was 7 inches long.
Well,
and so what happened is that there were women's groups that were complaining and griping about packaging and stuff in the day, and it ended up in the newspaper. And we were the big article in the New York Times on the size of the boxes for those airplanes. They showed pictures of the box, and then they opened the box, showed the model in it. And so Diker reversed it and we went back to normal size packaging.
Well, you see that in packaging today. I mean, like some medications, when the
Well, they do that for theft.
Mhm.
oh, really? Okay.
That's not why we did what we did. No.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I always figured that they were doing it just so they could have more shelf space and more visibility, but I didn't know about the theft angle.
No,
Okay.
it's theft.
Right.
Yeah.
There are drugstores in California that everything is under lock and key.
Wow.
Yep, it's true.
Yeah,
Wow.
unless it's burning down.
Bah. Yeah.
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 right.
I
And
oh, good.
actually, John, if I can comment to that last question you asked.
Yeah.
I'm not being insolent or snarky or anything like that. But what would you do differently? Nothing. But to Jim's point, it's proving that it's working still.
Yeah.
This and it's not to throw shade on your question because it's a good question. And will we add this or add that? But I look at the energy in that community, and since I've kind of like restarted and I'm having fun with my prehistoric scenes page, there's just so much immediate engagement and interest and activity, and that tells. And I don't know that it's strictly a nostalgia thing because youth today really respond to these kits. And I see that from working with Emeritus and whatnot. So I think it's a recipe that works, and it's like, why create new Coke when classic
Yeah.
Coke is all people want, right?
Well,
It's
it's
like Coca-Cola.
yeah. It's
If you guys remember that debacle from
oh, yeah. Yeah.
if it works, don't fix it. And I just think, and Jim, again, testament to you and to Andy, to Mr. Diker, to everybody, it's just like this still works. And obviously to Bill Lemon and Ray Myers, I mean, this is just beautiful stuff. And not to go on too much here, but one thing I will say about Tori, and I sound like such a fanboy of his, but he's really talented, is I charged him back when we did monster scenes and now with prehistoric scenes, show me the potential of these sculpts. Show me what's in there. And he's been able to draw this out. And he's told me during his build and his paints, he says, my gosh, the things that Bill Lemon and Ray Myers did, you can't appreciate it until you really work with it and really give them their just due. It's amazing the work that they did, and these things are still just really fabulous. And I think the community is proof positive that it was a great recipe, and we'll keep using it.
Well, the fun thing you could do with these more than anything else is if you were to take these and make molds, you could cast these out of bronze and they would be art pieces that would sell for thousands of dollars.
Yeah.
I totally agree.
Yeah.
In fact, maybe I ought to do that.
Maybe you should.
I'm gonna have to learn how to create more sturdy packaging there.
Well, let me check in my wallet first and see what I've got there.
Moths.
Yeah.
This has been a lot of fun. Thank you.
I would agree with what you're saying there, Dennis. I mean, there is a certain universality that if you sat those same kits in front of an 8-year-old today, they would still be wow. The only thing I would really say, because they are designed for kids, and for that they work well. I would have liked, the only thing I would change is I would like to have seen more. I would have liked to have seen mosasaurs and plesiosaurs, and more, more an expanded collection. Because everything else pretty much works.
Well, if Aurora hadn't fallen apart in 1977, I mean, they essentially stopped doing anything on new hobby kits in 75. 75, 76, and but it's a line that could have continued
Mhm.
for a long time.
Yeah, I would have loved to have seen that. All right, guys. Wow, we've been at it for a while. This has been a wonderful conversation. I thank you so very much for taking the time. And Dennis, originally my thought was I was just going to interview Jim, but I'm glad you came aboard. I'm glad you joined us.
Thank you.
You've had some really great stuff to
And so
add.
much because you're a part of it, and I really when he asked about it, when John asked about it, I says you got to have Dennis.
Oh, I appreciate that.
Well-
Yeah, you know, like I said, this is what I do too. And I am been so blessed to know Andy, to work with Andy, to know Jim, to work with Jim, and to capture this story, these different stories, because they're important to me. And I think there's a lot to be learned. And it's just fun. This long conversation we've had, John, it's just fun. This is what kids do when they're having a good time and not being in trouble. And this is just a really good time. I'm really looking forward to getting back to this book and finishing this thing up, because I've already been having fun putting together. Like I said, I've already got some chapters in the can right now, and they're so much fun. And the one thing I want to do with this one is I want to take all the fans, new and old, young and old, whatever, and put them in the same conversation we've been having.
Yeah.
It's just, we're in the clubhouse and we're just having a great time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, good play is play regardless of the age, and
There you go.
and absolutely valid, no matter how young or old you are. So I have certainly enjoyed, in the last year building all these kits, and it has brought me so much joy. So again, thank you, Jim, for your team effort with Andy and everyone else. And Dennis, I'm looking forward to that book. So get on
Got
it.
Watch that page. I'll keep. I'm
All right.
out there with the folks.
I'll be there. All right. So to wrap it up here, hopefully this all got recorded, and with all the technology stuff, won't know until I actually wrap it up here. But hopefully it get all.
Suggestion.
Yes.
It would be really cool if this was on a DVD that could go into the back of the book.
Oh, that'd be interesting.
I would have no objection to that. I'm not sure how to get the video once it's done over to Dennis, but we can figure that out. If nothing else, I can put it on I can probably burn it to at least initially to a DVD, or I can send you the files on I don't know if they'll fit on a thumb drive, maybe, but certainly on an external hard drive, and get them over to you. When you're ready. Just
have it in the book. I really do.
Sure. I'd be happy to do that. I'll be glad to do that.
The one thing, and I don't know from a printing and publishing standpoint about that, I got to look at the logistics of that to include all that. But the other thing I would say too is, as you release this, as long as we've been going on here, you could do parts 1, 2, 3, and 4, or something like that to keep your followers, John, coming back.
Let me think on that.
It'd be a lot for someone to sit down and try to watch all of this at once.
Yeah.
And I'd hate to see them bail out and not come back to see the rest of what you've done here.
Well, I'm going to think about that seriously, because that's not a bad idea. Let me see how long this is, because usually,
I've got 3.5 hours, or I've got 3 hours and 10 minutes right now.
Yeah, right.
Okay, we're breaking it up. That's a long time.
It is.
It's been great.
A lot of fun.
Yeah, it has been a lot of fun. I really enjoyed it.
If you read it all at once, you call it Dinoheimer.
Dinoheimer, like Oppenheimer. Oh my goodness.
I don't blame her.
Oh, goodness.
Okay.
Anyway, well, guys, thank you so very much. I
More
really,
than well.
yeah, I really appreciate, let me see if I can get,
See your face again.
well, I'm trying to get there. You know, I mean, it is glorious. Don't get me wrong, but, you know, the way that we had to go through Facebook Messenger to get to, um, let me see here. Maybe come here. If it would let me, wait. Hang on, guys. Maybe, it'll let me mute. Show active speaker on video. Well, I'm sharing my screen. You know what? You saw me, but do you see me now?
Not yet. I'm still looking at the T-Rex.
Okay, I don't.
Not you, Jim.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
Nice teeth.
well, okay. I don't know. I mean, I see myself now where I was seeing the T-Rex before.
Okay, I think it's just well, I've got a little spinning
Okay.
on that image. So
Anyway,
Visual.
hopefully it all gets done and I can export it out. There is a possibility that we had a wonderful conversation and it just didn't get recorded, but I think that it did. But anyway,
Okay.
thank you both so much. This has been a
Oh.
wonderful conversation. This really made my day. So
Thank you.
thank you so much.
Thanks, guys. I really enjoyed it.
And you've been so engaged, and I really appreciate you, man.
Sure. Happy to do it. This has been great. All right. Y'all take care. Thank you so much.
All right, gentlemen.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.
All right.